Hello and welcome. So, we're going to be factoring completely on this. Now you'll notice, I'm just going to put this out straight out there. You'll notice that these two terms combine. Don't combine them. Alright, if you want to factor this, your goal is to put it into four terms anyways. This is going to be factoring by grouping. Alright, so to start a factoring by grouping process, or to start any factoring process, first step, GCF. Look for a greatest common factor. And I'd say, alright, is there a number that goes into all of these numbers? Well, there isn't. So you'll notice that 3 and 5 have no common numbers other than 1. Alright? And you can't pull 1 out. I mean, you can, but it's not going to change anything. Alright? So no GCF to speak of, which means that we go straight down into the factoring process. So I'm just going to rewrite this down below so we have a little more space. Okay, so when we're looking at this, to start the factoring by grouping process, split down the middle. Now be careful, this is just an organization tool. You're not actually taking out or changing any signs, so make sure you don't accidentally cross out that negative. Alright, and then you say, okay, look on the left side, then look at the right. Left side, we have a 24n squared and a 40n. Alright, so I say, alright, is there anything, or what's the largest thing that these have in common? Well, notice 2 is the very least is the number they have in common, but it's not the largest. They have a 4 in common, but that's still not the largest. 8 is the largest number these have in common, right? Because 8 goes into 24 and 8 goes into 40. Now, that's not the only thing they have. When you look for GCFs for the largest thing that terms have in common, you look for the numbers and the variables. You'll notice that this one has 2 n's being multiplied. This has 1 n being multiplied. They both have an n, which means that's also a part of that GCF you're pulling out of the left side. And then you actually just pull it out, right? Factoring is like division, so taken in pieces. 24 divided by 8 is 3. If you have 2 n's and you're taking one of them out, how many are left? 1. Alright, and that's your first term. So then you move on to the next term. Positive 40 divided by an 8 is positive 5. Right? We want to make sure that plus is there because it was separated with addition before, right? If this was a negative or that was a negative, right? If the division gives you a negative number, you'll just do a minus. We'll see that in the next one. Okay? And then look at the variables. We have 1 n, but we're taking it out, which means there shouldn't be any n's left over. Alright, you had 1, but you took it away. There you go, GCF of the left side. Now let's do GCF of the right side. Again, 3 and 5, no common numbers other than a 1. Right? But, rule of thumb, right? If your first term is negative, pull it out. Okay, you'll notice we have a negative 3 as your first term. Pull out the negative. Okay, because we want to pull it out because 3 and negative 3 are not the same number. So if your first term's negative, pull it out. You want your first term to be positive. Alright, and then let's actually just pull it out. So a negative 3 divided by a negative 1. Well, negative over a negative is a positive. So we get positive 3. We're not taking out any n's, so that shouldn't change. There should still be an n left next to our term. And then we have a negative 5 over a negative 1. Negative over a negative is a positive, so we should have plus 5 there. Now, if this does factor by grouping, which this one does, you'll notice that your two parentheses should match. That's what you want. If they're not matching, you've either made a mistake or it doesn't factor this way. Alright? So then I look at that and I say, okay, well, now we do one last GCF, right? This is like it's this own term right here. And we say, okay, now we have term number 1, term number 2. What do they have in common? Look for a third GCF. Well, we already know exactly what they have in common. It's the thing that is exactly the same. The 3n plus 5 is the GCF. And then we pull it out and see what's left. Well, if I pull out of here a 3n plus 5, right? If this goes away, what's left? Well, that's just our 8n, right? The stuff in front. Same thing here. If I were to pull out the 3n plus 5, what's the only thing left there? -1, right? And there you go. There are your factors. Now, if you had a GCF, you would just put that right in front of your parentheses, right? If you would pull a GCF out in the beginning. But there you go. That's factoring by grouping, kind of with all the steps and all the explanation. Thanks for watching.